Hi everyone, it's Kate from the Fold Line and I am back this week with the Sew Down. This is our monthly roundup of stuff that we've seen, sewn, read, stuff that we thought you guys might find interesting that we've discovered in the last month. I haven't done, to be honest with you, I haven't done any sewing this year yet. I found the start of this year a little bit overwhelming. I really enjoyed seeing everyone's plans on Instagram and the sort of Make 9 and all of the, there's loads of, I don't know if you noticed this year, there's been loads and loads of sort of sewing initiatives starting at the beginning of the year. And to be honest with you, I found it all a little bit overwhelming. It sort of made me not want to do anything. So I haven't actually done any sewing yet. If you do want to get involved in any of the sort of sewing things that are going on online, I will pop a link down below. We've done a blog post with sort of ones that we've spotted around Instagram. But the Make 9 is a nice one. It's where you share 9 things that you plan to make throughout the year. Rachel's done hers. I'm yet to do mine. But what I have been doing is I've been doing a bit of knitting. So if anyone has seen my Instagram stories, it's been a steep learning curve that I know nothing about knitting, and I decided to buy I got in the sale a Wool and the Gang kit, and I'm doing the Super Bowl sweater. So this is actually a really simple jumper. It's moss stitch with a bit of ribbing. I've made quite good progress so far. So I got it at the weekend and yeah, made some good progress. It's really nice to have something just to pick up and do with your hands while you're watching TV. I find it quite relaxing. It's just sort of counting and yeah, I am really enjoying it. So nothing sewn as yet, but I am making a jumper. So that's fair enough. Sewing tool. So Rachel got this tool for Christmas and I've seen quite a lot of them about, and that it is so handy. So it's called the Simflex Expanding Sewing Gauge. I will pop a link down below where you can buy it, but this is what it is, right? So it's really clever. It's basically so you can evenly space your buttonholes on your make. It's got these little like markers as well, so you see the holes here. This is so you can actually draw a line for where your button's going to go. It's so useful, honestly. I've actually borrowed it from Rachel, and I just marked up something I was doing and it took a couple of minutes. They are quite pricey. I think this is about 18 to 20 pounds, but so useful, because I find that's one thing I get quite anxious about when I'm doing buttonholes, because you can't go back once you've started. So knowing that your spacing is absolutely perfect, I thought was really, really good. So I'm definitely going to treat myself to one of these. Yeah, I really would recommend them. This is a good thing. It's not that often that you see things that are you're like, actually I could really do with that. So yeah, that is my tool of 2018 so far. Sewing stuff, pattern wise. So we got sent, this is a brand new pattern company that launched this week or last weekend. They're a sewing shop, and they've just decided, they teach a lot of classes, and they've launched a range of patterns so that I'm assuming they can teach, as well as selling the patterns, they can teach them in their classes, which is really nice. There's 4 in the range, and they're quite nice. They're very beginner friendly, and I think they're kind of like really nice sort of base patterns. So there's a skirt, there's a activewear set, and the skirt, there's like 4 or 5 different options with it. Yeah, it's just a nice selection. Especially if you're a beginner sewer, I thought these were really nice. So they sent us one of the patterns. I just want to show you because I really like the packaging. So they sent me the cozy jersey dress. This is really nice. So it's a dress, it's a top, and I like that there's 2 variations of the dress. So there's one with the pockets at the side. I probably wouldn't do that because that's where my hips are, and I'm always trying to avoid them I don't like anything extra on my hips, but I thought this dress was really nice, and this jumper shape I really liked. So yeah, the packaging's really nice. The thing that I thought was really cool is at the back they've got all of their what's the word? They've got all of their sizing charts and how much fabric you need on these postcards. And you can pull the postcard out. Oh, this one is quite hard. It's actually stuck in a little bit. But you can take this out and go take it shopping with you, which I thought was really cool. So you don't need to remember how much fabric you need. You can just pop it in your bag, and then you know, when you come across the right fabric, you've got it. So I thought that was a really nice detail. In terms of the booklet, it is all colour, and there are step-by-step instructions with colour photographs, so it's quite handy. If they've also used the same fabric as they have on the front, so it's quite nice if you were making this, the inside, you know you're definitely working with this because it's the same colours, which I thought was really nice. Yeah, so that was my pattern find. So they're called, it's My Handmade Wardrobe is the name, and I will again pop a link down below to the site so you can go and have a look. Stuff I've read, so I've just got my laptop here. So I've got two cool sites to go and look at. The first one is called Clothing Care Company. So this has been set up by Harriet, who blogs at Hobbling Handmade, and I really like this website. So the premise behind it is that we spend so much time making our clothes and picking the right fabrics, but we don't actually spend that much time looking after our clothes and how to kind of care for them, store them, kind of be nice to them, essentially. So she's written really interesting blog posts. So one is how to do, I can never pronounce it, is it sashiko embroidery? One about how to store your clothes, hangers, whether you should, what items you should hang and what items you should fold. It's a really interesting blog, and I think it's going to have lots of interesting content. So she's just started it up, so there isn't loads on there at the moment, but I think judging by the amount she produces for her other blog, there'll be lots and lots coming up on here, so definitely worth going and having a look. So again, all links down below. Another nice website that I've been reading is called Worn Stories. So this is a US excuse me, sorry, this is a US site, and I loved it. I started reading it and realised about 45 minutes later the sort of funnel I'd gone down, and I was like really deep within the website. So the premise is that they write blog posts about interesting people, and the person is photographed in an item of clothing, and then they talk about the story behind this item of clothing. It relates to their lives, and it's just really nice. I've often thought about what adventures my clothes have been on. I have a lot of vintage clothing that I can't bear to part with, and I think part of that is loving the idea of what the story that the dress has had and what it's seen and what it's done. So it's a really nice website to read, and she's also got two books. So there's one called Worn Stories, and she's got actually really quite famous people talking about items of clothing and really interesting kind of items of clothing. And I think if you're looking for something kind of really nice and interesting to read, and each one isn't too long, so they're kind of, it's like short stories within a book. I'll pop the link to the book as well because I thought that looked really nice. And her new book is Worn in New York, so stories of people who live in New York and what they've worn. And again, she's got really interesting people. She's got, you know, Andy Warhol, and it's definitely worth having a look at. So I've really enjoyed having a good old read of that. Stuff I have been listening to. So podcasts. First one is called, let me go, it's a BBC Radio 4 podcast, but you can also listen to it online, and it's called The Untold, and it's anyone who is outside the UK, they're quite UK centric stories about people, but they're really interesting stories about people's lives, and they're not very long, they're about half an hour long, and just a really interesting little segment into what is going on in their life. So one of the ones I listened to was Jay-Z and Me, and it's the story of a guy who is a musician, and Jay-Z chooses to sample one of his songs on his tracks and what that means for him. And so they follow him from when he finds out about it for the next few weeks and how it all implodes, and it's really interesting. But the one, I will pop a link specifically to this one because it is so fascinating. It's a 5-part series and each one is 15 minutes long, so it's not that long, and it's called The Missing, and it's the story of a guy who goes off to work, waves goodbye to his family and doesn't come home and disappears, and it's about the wife trying to find him. It's so good. I was completely addicted. As soon as I finished listening to it, I sent it to Rachel, who is also completely addicted. So yeah, I'll pop a link to that. It's a really good one. The other one which I've listened to I haven't listened to all of them yet, but I started listening. It's a really sweet premise. So it's called Table Manners, and it's with Jessie Ware, who is a singer, and her mum. So they bring people over to their house, cook them dinner, and they kind of talk about food and life, and it's really interesting. But the one that I absolutely loved was before Christmas. They interviewed Sandy Toksvig, who, you know, BBC kind of, I don't know, icon presenter on the Great British Bake Off, but she is fantastic, and it was really interesting listening to her talking about food and family. And yeah, it was just they're quite nice little half an hour feel good sort of podcasts. Is that all of my things? Oh, the other thing I've started listening to, Audible. I think I mentioned in my last one, I've treated myself to that this year. So I've listened to this really fantastic book called Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton, who is a UK journalist. She's probably, I think she's about 32, and she's written this book, and it's sort of, I really liked it because it started off at me thinking, what does she know about love at 32? And actually it's a really lovely story of female friendships. I definitely think there's an age gap for this one. So I'm 34. I would say between 28 and 36, if you're in that age group, this book particularly is interesting because it's got all those sort of leaving to go to university, MSN, she's talking about MSN Messenger. I just found it hilarious. It was like it was really nostalgic, and her moving to London with her group of girlfriends and that whole side of it just brought back this whole nostalgia of me arriving in London with my group of friends, and I think it's really beautifully written. So I will pop a link. So it's on Audible and she reads it, which was really fantastic. She's actually amazing at doing story tapes. And also I'll pop a link to her book if you wanted to go and have a look. But yeah, I'd highly recommend that. So that is me done for this week and month, and we'll be back soon with another video. Bye.